Hey, welcome back to the Build It Basement. My name is Carmen. I'm here to welcome you back to the Build It Basement. Today, we're working on our Voron Trident with a little bit of a shorter video, which I'm going to try to shorten them all up as we move forward here. If you like that, go ahead and leave a comment down below, or if you don't like that, leave a comment down below. Either way, I want to welcome you to my little community here on YouTube. Also have a Discord server. I'll leave the link for that down in the description. And if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell icon and maybe the membership button thing down there somewhere. Go ahead and hit that and become a member. Appreciate all of it. So without any further ado, let's roll up our sleeves, jump into this video and see where we wind up today.
Welcome to the Build It Basement.
All right, where we left off last time, we were working on setting up our Z. So let's jump right back into that right now. And the first thing we're gonna notice here is some heat inserts we have to do. Some pretty simple stuff. So I want to talk about this real quick. So pretty much you have two choices when you're working with your drag chains or your Z chain in this particular motion of the printer. You have a 2-hole variation, which is a generic type chain. And then you have an IGUS type chain, would reword that, 2-hole IGUS. And a 3-hole version, which is for generic type. Now, I have a 3-hole right here. I do not have my IGUS chain with me right now, but that's what a 3-hole looks like. So if you have that, that's a generic one. And you'll have to print the proper Z for that. It's the rear Z piece that goes in the back of this. And that is where your drag chain for your Z is going to be. So if you need that, that's what you got. So I do have IGUS chain coming, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in. We're going to use our insert tool, heat press. That jumped out at me. And whenever you put these in, and I don't want to do a ton of these because I'm trying to make these videos a little bit quicker these days, but when I say quicker, just full of information, just not quite as long. You want to make sure they're not proud of the plastic you're putting them in, but you also don't want them too deep. You want them just right. So if you run your finger over them, or if you run them on a piece of something, you shouldn't feel them, but at the same time they should be so deep that you can kind of notice that they're sunken in. So I'm going to unplug this guy right here and make some room. And looking at the build manual now, they go over and they tell you IGUS 2, generic chain 3, and both of them are just fine. I've actually never had trouble with the generic, so no matter what you have, it's not a big deal. All right, we've already done this part of this video. I was in a previous video, so if you haven't checked that one out yet, go back and look at the previous video. That's when we're actually buying the motor mounts for our Z, which we've already done again. So I'm gonna skip through this and pause real quick on this picture because I think it's funny as heck. Yeah, that happens way too frequently to people. And there's the stoppers and the fronts and some more stoppers and the other front, and yeah. All right, here we go. So left Z joint. So we have parts here. We have lots of parts. It's almost like one of those shell game things, right, where we can kind of do this, but they're all the same, so it doesn't matter, right? All right, we have some printed parts here. These are marked again in the manual with the little hearts on them. These are our accent color pieces, and again, orange I chose here is luminescent under blacklight, which is why we're using it for this build. I'm gonna set these guys aside for a quick second. I'm gonna set that guy aside for a quick second. Now, if you choose to go with just a black or a generic color, depending on what you have, it's not a big deal. It's going to look something like this. As to usability, functionality, no difference whatsoever. And then if you want to do something, it's going to be a little bit flashier. You can have something like that. It's going to look like that on the printer. So that's pretty much what you're going to notice the difference on. You're not going to see a big difference. It's going to be there like that. So set that guy aside. It was a test print. So they want us to do a left joint, and the best way to do this, and like I always say, is to grab your parts and kind of line them up as they are in the photo. So if we look at our two pieces here and we put them like they are in the photo to the far left, we will realize that this one right here is our left and this one is our right. So I'm going to set the right one aside because it is the wrong one right now. And I'm going to grab my part that goes with that, my accent part. I'm going to put that on right here. That's where it's going to go. And we're going to use some M3x6s for that. And I believe these are our M3x6, M3x6, M3x6. When in doubt, measure it out right like that. We're going to need 3 of these guys. Actually, these are button head screws. So we're looking for button head screws now. M3x6 button heads. Is that this guy? Yep. All right, so we're going to need 3 of these. And in a jam, if you don't have the proper heads on your screws, sometimes you can get away with it, but not every time, okay? Just be aware of that. And it doesn't show us doing any heat search into this, so it looks like we're threading directly in the plastic. So a little word on that. So this is strictly an accent piece, and that's why it's being threaded directly in the plastic. But one of the things you want to be careful of, especially when you're threading things directly into plastic, is that you don't over tighten them. It is 100% crucial that you do not over tighten, because if you do, they're just going to fall out. Now, if they do, or if you do over tighten them, if you get too far down that road, I can't keep this picture up for myself here. What you can do is take it back out. You're gonna have to take them all out if you do that. You can put yourself a little dab. Well, there's multiple ways you can do it. One way is a little dab of super glue on your actual screw, and that will be enough to hold it in place. You're just gonna hold it, especially with something like this. This is strictly cosmetic. It's not functional really. So that's one way. The other way, and this is how I'm telling you if it's tight. Basically, I'm screwing it in. If I can still rotate that real easily. I know that I haven't really, there we go. I haven't hit the bottom because it's kind of hard to tell with your hand because you gotta be ginger. The other way is basically you go in there and either take a little bit of filament, a small piece of filament, and kind of make yourself a little wedge, or you can take a hot iron or something like that, and you can actually just kind of I guess deform the screw hole a little bit so you get a little grip on it that way. So those are all good options if you're stuck. Of course, the best option is not to strip it out. Second best option is to reprint the piece, but if you're in a bind and you have no other way, those are a couple ways to get around that. So there we have it, just like that. Okay, and that is our left. We got to put the M5 nut in. This is the last thing on this. So the M5 nut is going to go in. Whoop. Actually, is this a? This is actually supposed to be held in place by this cosmetic piece, and I totally blew it. So I'm going to loosen this back up like this. Take those 2 out. Spin it. Put that guy in because I wasn't paying attention. Put him back in like that. I still think I could have gotten him in there, but they do show putting it in there first. And now there's kind of threads cut into that plastic, so you can kind of feel a little bit better as to how tight to go. It's kind of nice. And there we go. There we go. Boom. Nice. It fell out. So yeah, it goes in there. It will fall out. Didn't have to take that apart. So mistakes will be had. All right, so next thing up, we're gonna do these M3x12s. So jump right on that. We're gonna grab the piece we just built, and we're gonna need some M3x12s, and we're gonna be putting some parts together here because we're not gonna fully tighten this according to the documentation. So our M3x12s, That's an 8 or M3x12s. And we're going to be using some M3 lock nuts with those, which are right here, these little guys. These guys are tiny. Never used so many metric screws until I got into 3D printers. But, all right, so, interesting. All right, so do not fully tighten this nut. So we're gonna go with something like this. Oop. Then M5 nut keeps falling out. So, I'm wondering here, we're going through like so. And is that enough to catch? Maybe it is. The little, this is fun. The little shoulders here on the inside are just barely enough to get caught by the screw head. So just to give you a visual on that, you put the screw in. There's a little shoulder right there, and the screw head is just enough to get caught on that. So that's how we're retaining. So yeah, so let's go ahead and put this through like so. And then our M3 lock nut on the back side. And then let's get the next one in. And they only show 2 of them. They show it like this, and they show one. They show one on this side and one on this side. And this is the first Trident I've ever built, so I'm not 100% as to why it is that way. But if you are, and I don't figure it out before the end of this video, leave me a comment, let me know. All right, so just like that for right now. Grab that, because I'm sure we're gonna need it next. So it says, do not fully tighten for best results, do not fully tighten. So we have not fully tightened that whatsoever. I wouldn't even say that we've barely tightened it. So grab some pliers real quick so I can kind of ratchet that down a little bit. All right, got my trusty vice grips. I'm just going to grab that one like that. And tighten that up just enough. Then we'll grab the other. Like that. And we'll leave it like that. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure those are pretty free. Yep, pretty free. All right, so that's what we wind up with as of right now. All right, what is next? One thing I'm kind of sort of puzzled on is on these Z-joints are lead nut bolts. So on the documentation, they show thread going both up and down through. However, I only have it on one side based on the parts I have. And I'm not sure if it's supposed to be going up or down. What would it look like if we do it this way? That'd be kind of odd. There'd be no retaining there. I think that's wrong. Okay. Part of me wanted to say that would be more correct because our nuts are lower than our piece, but then there's no hold or there's no additional security of being in the center there. So I'm going to go the way we have it here. I believe that's going to be the way we're going to go with that. So that's our left all the way through. And then right is going to be a copy of the left, so let's hammer that one right out real quick. Let's put this dang M5 nut back in again. So we're going to use our small M3s here. Sort of start that. Grab the next one. Now that I have a feel as to how tight we can go with those, a little more comfortable. And get the next one here. While I'm doing this last one, actually, let me show you something real cool. I got this kit the other day. It's a FANTTICK workstation, and it wasn't hugely expensive, but it's super nice. It came with a work pad and everything like that. And this is gonna seem almost like a little commercial, but I haven't really had a chance to use it much, but this is a really cool part. So right here, when you click on the side, right here, it pops out a little driver. Now this doesn't have a ton of torque on it, obviously, but it does have enough for something like this. So actually, let's see if it does. Just barely. So anyways, kind of a cool little kit. I might not be charged all the way, but great if you got a bunch of little screws. Also has a little flashlight in the bottom there. Great for electronic stuff as well. I have used it a little bit for that type of stuff, but then it comes with a bunch of different tools and tweezers and sploogers or splungers, whatever you want to call them, and a bunch of bits. So anyways, if you're having trouble with your hands, something like that, a nice little kit like this might help you out. Also like the larger one that I have, my Dremel version, which is substantially stronger. But yeah, figured I'd show you. Okay, so put this in here like this, and then we're gonna put, we got M5 that's gonna fall out again. We'll see here, we're gonna do this, and then this is going to be situated so I can see the holes. I'll put it like it is in the picture, and they show it like so. So put that M12 or M3 by 12 in there. My second M3 by 12 over here. Put my thumb behind it. Grab my lock nut and get at least a thread or so on there. And I'll flip around, do that. And that. Grab this one. And we'll do the same thing. Tight, and I'm going to back it off a little bit. And yes, these vice grips are way overkill, but I like them because it's like having another set of hands because I don't have to hold it. You know, I could use these little crescents I have like that, but the problem is I maintain pressure on them as I'm using them. So this makes it a little bit easier. So we're gonna need another M5 nut in this thing to keep falling out on us because, you know, I like that. That's fun. We'll do that. We'll do that, and we will leave those guys just like that, all pretty for the camera. All right, so that leaves us with that. And we're on page 81. Now on to page 82. So page 82, we're actually working on the rear Z, which is this guy right here. And again, like we talked about before, this is an iGUS. There's also a generic version with 3 on there as opposed to the 2. So be aware of that. And we're gonna do the same thing we've been doing here. We're gonna go ahead and mount this like so. Kind of hard to see on camera. And we're going to be using M12s again. And hopefully I have a couple more lock nuts in there. So M12, M12, like that. My thumb behind it again. And try to get these guys on here just a little bit. Just enough to hold them. Like that. In the background right now, I got printing another version of this in case I decide to use the generic chain I have. I haven't decided if I'm going to order because I don't have the iGUS chain version. Although it would be the proper version to use, the nicer version, if you will. But again, I've never had trouble using generic chains. And I'll show you what most people tend to complain about, when it comes to chains at least. Let's get that. Let's look at that real quick. So a lot of people complain about how the chain opens and closes now. Some generic chains don't even open up at all, but all the generic chains I've worked with have always opened up like this. These things clip down like that. The easiest way I've found to always open these up is with a small tool. Doesn't matter if it's tweezers, basically going in like this and just working it up. So again, if you have it, you just go in and flip it up. So basically what you're doing is you're unlocking this piece from this piece right here. This is a little clip, and this is a little hook right there. So hook to hook holder, if you will. So you just separate out and flip it up, and you should be fine. So, but yeah, so some generic chains do not open up, which would be a huge hassle running your cable through them. These ones do. Most of them do, as far as I know, as far as I've had, as far as I've seen. So not a huge issue to me. But do be advised, if you are buying chains that aren't iGUS and they are generic, that is one of the things you want to look at. Other than that, you know, it's not a big deal. You can actually print your own chains. I don't know if the Trident, I didn't look, actually has an STL to print cable chains, but I know the 2.4 may still, but at one point definitely had a printable file so you can print your own chains. It's one of those things that if you really want to go hardcore, definitely something you can do, but probably something that's not worth it if you're not that hardcore about it. So yeah, put that away. And then in the manual, we have that. We have, we have 82, and then we have the mounting of these guys. So let's go ahead and get these on. I'm gonna pull the printer back over. Get rid of this. Leave these guys where they are. Let's see here. So we're gonna be doing the left first. So it's gonna be this guy over here. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna twist this over, like so. Make it easy to see. Pretty easy to see, right? Yeah. All right, and we're gonna be working off of this guy right here. And which one was our left? our left. Let's see, I gotta situate this thing now. I am all backwards. These M5 nuts keep coming out, so let me get myself resituated with which one's left and which one's right. So our right one, this is, all right, this is our left. So we're gonna do our left one on this side like so, which makes sense, fits on there. So we just had to go back and look at the photo, never hurts. And what we're going to do is some M3x12s in this. These are some socket head screws, like there, 4 of those. And if you like, use some thread locker. If you're worried about plastic, I would basically put your liquid thread locker directly into these holes. Show you that real quick. A little bit of a balancing act. You can basically just drop a little bit of thread locker in like this. And of course you're going to want to wipe off the excess. That. And then you're going to mount your part here, right to your rail. So start it. Let's get the next one. So these are positions you'd never be in if you weren't video recording a YouTube video on how to put a printer together. So just want to point out to everybody that always asks why does it take so long for me to put together a printer? Oh, and by the way, I love your camera angles. Just saying. It's tough. Urgh. It's like torture. I torture myself. All right. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna tighten these down pretty good. So the argument on these, and I'll say it again because you may see me do the rest of these without thread locker, although I probably will, because when it comes to carriage connections, I really like to make sure they're locked in there good. And yes, I am holding the printer with my chin, depending on how I cut this, and then you see me. But the springiness of the ABS is probably enough to put tension on it, like a lock washer. So you really don't need thread locker per se, but it's still a smart thing to do, especially when you're dealing with something that's so important. So now we have that one on. I'm going to go ahead and rotate this again. And this time, I get to see what I'm doing, but I will move the camera so you can as well. So I'm going to do the same thing we did last time, because I do feel these are really important, these little carriage connections. Pump a little bit of thread locker into those. Oh, chapstick holder. Like that. Put the cover on and drop it. These M5 nuts are killing me. All right, and then there. And then 4 of these guys. These are the M3x12s again. And my preferred method for mounting anything with more than 2 screws is to crisscross them. It's just a tip. It's not a necessity. You can probably get away with just tightening them all up one at a time. Wouldn't do that, but you can probably get away with it. So it's kind of like when you put a tire on a car with the lug nuts. You go in a star pattern or crisscross pattern, just to make sure everything's tensioned up equally. There we go. And of course, our M5 nuts that keep falling out are right there. And I don't think it's because my print's a little bit off, slightly too large or whatever. I think they're, I think it's dead nuts on. I think that these just are falling out. So, in case you're wondering. But then again, it could be completely off. All right, so back to the PDF. We have that. We have that. We've done both of those because we like to do things in unison. And now we have the rear Z joint, which is another version of what we just did. So I'm gonna put this over here this time. Why not? We can really get in there this time. Thread locker. Wipe it clean. And then our part. And 1, 2, 3, 4, M3. Oh, this time we're using M3x8s. It says M3x8s, which is interesting, I guess. We'll try it. Try it. No reason to doubt it. One. And one I can't see. And 3. And finally on number 4. Number 4 I'll tighten up. Go back over to the last one, tighten that one up. Go back over to the first one, tighten it up. To the second one, tighten that one up. And back over to that one. That one. That one. And one last good tweak on that. There we go. Cool. All right. So that is that, that is that, that is that, that is that, and we're flipping this guy over and we are going to mount some motors on this thing. Now, we're gonna end this video today by lubricating some Z drives. We're gonna lubricate one actually, so I'm gonna do them off camera for the rest of them when we put them in. I prefer to do it before we put them in. You could argue either way. I mean, you can make a little bit of a mess if you don't do it, but once you get them in there, or once they're like this in front of you, real super easy to do. So if you're cool with it and you want to do it like this, it's a good time to do it. If you don't, whatever. But for something like this, you have multiple choices of what you can use for a lubricant. I personally will be using a synthetic. You could use white lithium grease. You can use different types of PTFE. You could be using the Mobilux, the same stuff that you use on your bearings. All of it would work. What I like best though, for this type of thing, and which is kind of odd actually, because I like PTFE grease mostly when you're using it on plastic parts because it works well on plastic. But the consistency of it is really good for threads as well. So I'm going to put more than I need because once it's on there, it's on there. And the excess will be excess. But if you don't have enough on there, you may never know. So I'm going to go ahead and get it on there. And this will get worked into these threads a little bit better than what I'm doing right now when it actually works on the printer. But this is giving you not only lubrication between your threads, but it also helps tighten up just the same way as it does on those bearings and those carriages. Tightens up that connection between the threads. So what you're looking for in the end is basically just a well lubricated unit like that. And then if you really want to go the extra distance, you can make sure you clean everything up really well. Just give it a quick run up like that. Now you don't have to worry about getting everything dirty, but you have lubrication inside of all the threads. Nice and neat, nice and fit. Works well. You can tell it's not as shiny as the other ones, but it should be. It's now lubricated. So I'm gonna get all three of these lubricated up, and the next video will be installing them. So I hope I check you next time. See you around.